Hi, this is Solomon. Today I wanted to speak about ayahuasca and self-realization, and to point out straight away up front that they are not the same thing. I come with hopefully a lot of humility, but certainly a lot of training and experience in this. I spent 7 years training as a onaya, someone who knows in the Shipibo language. Including 2 years sat on my own in a hut, half starving to death, bitten by mosquitoes, invaded by ants and tarantulas. And training the old school way as a Shipibo curandero. You can find out more about that on my website if you want a bit more information. I also, post-training, around a year ago now, after 30 years of searching, had a non-dual realization. I don't actually know when or how, but as anyone who has seen at least a glimpse of their true nature, it's something you know, and it puts an end to the searching. But while I was doing all my training, yes, I was still searching. Anyway, having, let's say, experiencing one and knowing of the other, I can bring a perspective that the perspective or the truth that they are not really, they're not the same thing. A lot of people come to ayahuasca, some through curiosity, others to heal. But a common mistake that people make is to assume that the visions you have during an ayahuasca ceremony, or may have, while potentially very healing and illuminating, are not the same thing as what you're truly seeking. And in fact, having more and more of these exotic experiences is far more likely to take you away from what you truly desire, which is freedom. Well, I assume it's freedom. I think that's what every human being, whether they're conscious of it or not, is really looking for. Most call it happiness, but I think it's actually freedom, and freedom itself is happiness. And that's what you are. You are free once you get beyond or are able to see and choose what beliefs you hold about yourself. But anyway, the common mistake people make is that because ayahuasca and other plant medicines are seen as spiritual practices, that they will somehow lead you to realization. And in and of themselves, they won't. And the same is true of meditation. The same is true of yoga. There is no process to waking up. There's just an apparent process. Or in some cases, there isn't a process at all. But if you've been on the spiritual path, you're apparently, as I was, you may be believing yourself to be on a process that's going somewhere, that will eventually get you to the other side. But in my experience with a lot of meditation, a lot of plant medicine, dieta work, psychoanalysis, even some yoga, ultimately the point of doing these practices, if there was a point, was to show me that they're not necessary. But it's easy with ayahuasca or any of these modalities to get stuck in constantly healing yourself, constantly being a good spiritual person, which unfortunately is missing the point. But anyway, I just thought I'd point to a few things about why ayahuasca isn't really about that, isn't really about self-realization. And in fact, it's important just to make that point because there's nothing wrong with doing it, and it has great benefits on an energetic level, in the dimension of healing, provided you don't just stay on a healing journey forever, because that's the whole point of realization, is there is no healing journey. It's just now. But depending what frequency and dimension you're working in, it can bring great benefits. But one thing which I kind of know from my training, it's a very traditional setting. My master is old school. And I didn't do plant dieta or my training like you get in all the centers in Peru or other parts of South America or even in Costa Rica, say. I did it the old school way, the Shipibo way. So kind of honouring the medicine which has been passed down through lineages and through now my own lineage for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And so having such a long and deep training in this tradition with this specific family and this specific lineage allowed me to hear and witness and be part of what this medicine's really about. And it's a tribal medicine. And because it's tribal, the intention that ayahuasca holds and the plants hold is because plants, without humans, they are pure love, pure energy. But it's a bit like when you train to connect with these, and even when you drink ayahuasca without being a trainee or a protege, you're allowing the plants, you're creating a symbiosis with the plants. So it's not just their energy, it's the energy of the people who've drunk it. So over 1,000 years, let's say, all of these medicine masters in the Shipibo tribe and other tribes have been pouring their own energy into the field that ayahuasca occupies and the plants occupy. And so the intention, the primary intention, I'm not saying this is all it can be, because this medicine is mysterious, miraculous, and to kind of diminish it in any way, as if it's not the real thing because it's not, it's not the ultimate truth, that would be a massive disservice, because it's just, while that may be true on some level, the multidimensionality, the magic of this medicine is utterly unknowable. So it has many potentials, but the traditional purpose of this was to protect and secure the harmony of the tribe. So in this sense, it's kind of communal. And the other one was to heal disease at the spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical level. So it is a healing technology, but healing belongs to duality, right? There's something to heal. And self-realization shows you there is nothing to heal. There is only your perception to heal. There is only the beliefs you have about yourself to be uncovered, and those which do not serve to be relinquished. And in this way, you can use ayahuasca to do this. But it's not designed for self-realization. Nothing's designed for self-realization in actual fact, you know. The big mistake people make with meditation is that if I meditate enough, I will arrive. There's nowhere to arrive. It's just, there is no process. But seemingly there needs to be a process on one level, kind of, I don't know why, for you to realize there is no process. But anyway, going back to ayahuasca, it's a tribal medicine. It's not designed to wake you up. It can show you amazing things, but ultimately, true self-knowledge is very simple. It's to know that I am. So while it may be nourishing and beneficial to see angels around you supporting you, these are all kind of constructs within mind, symbolizations, and yet real at the same time. But you know, you can easily get totally sidetracked by these blissful experiences, but they're passing. They're not the knowing, they're objects in mind. So as a dualistic practice, for energetics work, for healing of the human, for potentially somatic work, for releasing dense energies that, cause suffering, then it's incredibly powerful, can be extremely beneficial, but it's not the same thing as self-realization. And another thing which I think is a kind of a mistake people make, and I made for many years, is it's sort of projection onto the plants and ayahuasca of some kind of hierarchy, reverence for the plants. I live here in the Sacred Valley of Peru, and there are so many rituals, so many people praying to coca leaves and ayahuasca, and essentially they're saying, I'm not the master of my own destiny. I'm not the master of myself. Please help me and don't hurt me. You know, so much of this, so I call it false reverence. What I've come to through my own self-realization, the realization that it's all me, it's all within my power, and yet I work in this world where there are seemingly other spirits and beings, and that is true on its own level. But I'm not falsely reverent towards them. I respect them because I respect myself. I honor them because I honor myself, which is kind of a clue, really, that it's all kind of, it's sort of a co-creation and a self-creation at the same time. But if you put them on a pedestal, then you just create more separation for yourself and more blocks. So while I absolutely would kind of insist with anybody who came to sit and drink ayahuasca with me that they are respectful, but it's a kind of respect yourself. The respect you have for yourself is the level of respect that you can give to the plants. But it has to be that way around, because if you're just fearing them, then you're kind of putting your power outside yourself, and then any use of them will ultimately not serve the purposes of your self-liberation. And what else would I like to say is, so on the one hand, say you had a really nice, beautiful ayahuasca ceremony and you had these visions, you went to heaven, you met God, I don't know. It's crazy what can happen. You know, you are walking in a enchanted jungle, enchanted forest with iridescent, gigantic glass butterflies flying around you, and it's all just beautiful. Or you could go to hell, you know. But an effective session of ayahuasca is where ultimately, in my role as the leader, as the curandero who knows how to work with this, I use the sacred technology that Shipibo is, which is the Icaro. If you go on my channel, you can find other descriptions of that. But using song, vibration to clean and clear and release cross dense energies from the bodies and minds of those who drink with me. So ultimately, a successful ceremony, whether you've gone to hell or heaven, or been bored out your mind because nothing happened, anything can happen, is where finally all of the crossed energy is released and harmony is restored. So the benefits, you could say, of that is when you get closer to, say, God consciousness or self-realization. I'm not saying it's the same thing, but it's kind of a reference point or an anchor, is where everything's been released. And sometimes I call it the cosmic joke, because at times you'd be like, all hell breaks loose in a ceremony, you know. Feels like people think they're going to die, or it can be quite alarming. But as long as it's held, then it's safe, you know. But which is why it's really important to drink with someone who's really knows what they're doing. But suddenly I can find myself just laughing hysterically, because it's just like, what the fuck was that all about? Because it's all gone and it's all clean, and it's like, and then you feel the peace. And especially if you're in the middle of the jungle and you can hear the crickets and the frogs in the early morning, it's sublime. But you have this peace. And rather than thinking, when you have that peace, like, now we're good, it's more like, this is ease. This is the flavor of my true being. And yes, because I drank ayahuasca, it may well pass. But even if you've had a self-realization, peace comes and goes, except for you have a knowing of the peace that's there permanently. It may be very, very obscured at times, but there's just a kind of fundamental knowing that nothing can touch that. But yeah, you can use that peace to orientate yourself towards the essence of what you are. And I also think that in my case, and certainly with my master, there was not a lot of sharing circles are very fashionable in ayahuasca and many spiritual practices. Now, yeah, I'm not a big fan, to be honest, but because, say, you have, it can be very tempting when you drink ayahuasca to kind of, you receive all this high frequency energy and light, and then you want to just tell everybody about it because you saw angels, or and then it becomes, again, you fix it, you give away that power that you've received. So quite often sharing circles are about fostering a sense of community, kind of group therapy, or being heard. And as long as you recognize that's what it is, then that's fine. You know, again, it's always about being conscious of what's really going on and not kind of glorifying it or making it some super holy thing, you know. It's just self-honesty. But for me, it's really important after you drink ayahuasca to remain in that silence for a certain amount of time now, and to bask in a frequency that's a bit closer to what you truly are, and that needs no ayahuasca to invoke, just your clear seeing. So I hope that's given a bit of an idea, a taste of what, how I'd say, what the difference is between, or what the relation is, or potential relation is between ayahuasca and non-duality, or where it's not non-duality. For me now, having trained so hard and had this self-realization, it's now, I'm on my own exploration of how to use this medicine, because it is phenomenally powerful, and I think with the right foundation of understanding, when it is drunk, it can be extraordinarily powerful. And yeah, it's I'm looking at how to turn this into a true healing modality, where we're not healing trauma, we're not trying to clean ourselves, we're healing our perspective, we're healing our perception. And once that's straightened, once all the lies we're telling ourselves are outed and let go of and processed, then yeah, we can start to really benefit from this medicine and use it as a platform for living our lives. Because for me, for so many years, I was using healing, shadow work, to escape from life, and life's the real teacher. So that's where I come from now, is that life is the teacher, and let's see how we use this incredible, miraculous technology of ayahuasca that I've invested so much time to master, to actually create something really new and that does shift worlds. Okay, if you are interested to work with me, I offer ceremonies here from my home in the Sacred Valley in Peru. I also offer Conscious Adventures, which is a more immersive experience here in one of the most beautiful places in the world, very close to Machu Picchu. And I also offer online sessions, identity transformation sessions, because as I say, or I don't know whether I exactly specified it, but it all starts at the level of identity. No amount of sitting cross-legged or contorting ourselves into positions in yoga, or even drinking plant medicine, no amount of that will bring you freedom if you don't first examine what you're saying about yourself, because that's what's causing the suffering. And everything else after that is a tool to help accelerate you to greater self-knowledge. It's a tool. It's not the thing. Your self-concept is the fundamental thing. Okay, so yeah, also identity transformation sessions, and if you are drinking plant medicine and need some integration support to get a perspective from someone who's been there, knows it very deeply, particularly ayahuasca, then reach out to me. You can find more details on my site. I'm offering a free half-hour call for anyone who feels called to work with me in any of these ways, if it resonates. And I hope you have a great day. Bye for now.